Hey, this is some guy named Chris, and today I want to talk about error checking in Power Automate, validation, and making sure that you are catching and notifying the appropriate parties when certain steps were to fail. So, what came about this, and I'll start sharing my screen here, is I was working on a Power Automate that had a lot of steps and there was looping, and within the steps in the looping, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't causing issues or stopping the process from continuing if in fact there was an error at a certain level. So after discussing and reviewing and actually discussing with my developer lead and reviewing the processes, there are multiple ways of doing this. However, what we came up with is scoping. And the scopes within Power Automate will catch an error and send an email or do some other alternative aspect. So if you're looking at the screen here, we have a scope here. And so what this is just simple. Once a day or twice a day, whatever it is, we initialize a variable, which will never fail. We have a store procedure that's called to get some data, and then we parse up. Now, if you've dealt with the parse JSON, if you dealt with the JSON file, I run into a lot an integer versus a number, and that seems to be what kills my flows most times. So if you're testing this and it's all whole numbers and integers, and all of a sudden you get a 5.5, it will blow up because it's expecting a number. So this can fail. At that point, so what I'm doing is, if either of these two fail, in this scope, it'll notify the scope is failed. And then I have a branch here where it's either a condition or it's a send an email. Now you'll notice these little dots here. This send an email, underneath this settings, this is going to say run after, and we got is successful, has timed out, or has failed. So I've set this up so if this scope were to fail, I will get an email that scope either failed or timed out. If it's successful, it would go down this branch. And in here, actually, we now have a loop because this store procedure can return multiple records. We have a loop and a for each loop that I have another scope inside. Initially, I tried to put a scope around the entire thing, and then I'm like, okay, that doesn't work because the for each, I want to be able to notify the person if whichever one failed at that time. So inside of the for each, you can do another scope. And if those scope fails, for instance, the update or I say a process right back were to fail, then I'm actually going to send an email. Again, now this actually, if you look at it, for every record in this for each, I'm trying to update a record in Dataverse. If that were to fail, or sorry, if that's successful, I go to right back into the database that it's tracking. It was successful. Let's put it that way. If it fails, it's going to actually right back. It's going to say this scope failed. Again, we now have has failed or has timed out. It's going to catch this, send me an email, and then it's going to write back to that same database saying it failed versus success. And it's going to do that for each one. Then it's going to go back up to the next record. So if you had this scope outside of the for each, then after the very first fail, it would stop. It would then not go continue the remaining records. That may be what you want. There are times when you would want to do that. Alternatively, for here, even an email, maybe it tracks the fails here, but the email goes on the outside, and inside here we could do a variable and catch a variable array, or if it's a variable string, put in the ones that success, the records that are success, records that are failed, and then we can send an email with a single email with all of that data. Definitely a lot of different techniques. This here allows me to have the granularity to see which ones exactly failed. I may change it, but this is one of my rec flows. As you can see, it's an integration. I am receiving data and pushing. This is not one where I'm pushing data and someone else is handling. So I want to make sure that I'm getting the granularity, and I'm fine with that. So that's as much as they have for error checking that I have in this one. There is other error checking. Take a look at the documentation, see what works best for you. If you have questions, post them below, let me know. Glad to take a look at flows, see how you can get the checking in. And that's about it. Nice and simple. Hey, thanks. Have a great one.